Hello, on this video we are going to get some training for Autodesk Inventor Basics. So if I click to launch my Inventor, I'm going to get something that looks like this most of the time that starts up. It'll show me past parts that I have been working on. It'll allow me down here to create new part drawing, which would be what I use to make like a blueprint. If I'm making an assembly or some videos, so whatever it is, I can do that here. An inventor part is an IPT, inventor part. Okay, so I can either click this to launch something I already have, pick new part if I wanted to, or I can use the bar up top, because sometimes you'll get Inventor to open up and it'll look like this, and it's like, well, where is everything? So you're just going to go to the toolbar up top. In this case, we're going to say new. And now it gives me a different look at how I can do it again. I have my standard inventor part, or I have a standard assembly, or I have some other choices. I'm going to pick a standard inventor part and pick create. And it's going to load some things. Down here in the lower left hand corner is kind of like a little storyline that tells you what's going on. So you can, if you're not sure what's happening, look down there. So it's still loading stuff so that it's set up to go. And as soon as it's done, we should get a, so here it says no browser. This whole window here is the browser. And we're still loading. So while it's still loading, let's talk about this tool ribbon across the top here. So these are the different things that I could have. There we go. There's the rest of the ribbon. Okay. 3D modeling, sketch, input, inspect, tools, CAM. This is for if we have Inventor HSM loaded, or CAM software, so we can put a tool path to our part and program it for the CNC machines, which we will do on a later video. And we have some, these all things fit within the different choices. Before we get too far, what I want you to do is, immediately I would say save your part. Nothing's worse than working for an hour and then having my part not saved for some reason, or it glitches and crashes and whoops, I lost everything. So my viewpoint is, if it makes you happy, save. Okay. So one of the things that people run into is it doesn't always look like this up here. And if you look here, there's this little minimize the panel buttons, and I can toggle through. And it makes it look different. So if I want more screen, I can have it look different, and then the windows kind of pop up as little drop downs, so to speak. Okay. But then you got to do a lot more, but it gives you some more space. So if it's looking different than you remember it, just toggle through this until you get the setup you're looking for. Okay. Another area that becomes a problem is this area over here, this browser. What this does is tells me the history, and it's not just the history, it's how things go together, and I'll show that to you shortly, but quite often, bing, it's gone. I don't know how to get it back, so it doesn't just click back. So if we come over here to View, User Interface, there's the browser. So I can turn things on. Over to the right here, this is the view cube. If that's gone, turn it back on. So if any of these things are missing, you can come in here to view, user interface, turn them back on. Okay. So I want to save. So I'm going to save this. Brings it up. Obviously, you're going to path it to some place where you want to go. It defaults to the right format based on what I said I was going to create. Okay. So let me save this since I'm doing that, and I'm just going to call this test. Okay, on my desktop. So now I've saved it and it worked. So if I'm going to create something, okay, basically the way Inventor works is you make a sketch and then you make it a 3D object by giving it depth. So I have to come up here in the upper left, sketch. Now I can do a 2D sketch or a 3D sketch. I always use 2D sketch. And it pops up with this work planes. I have an XY work plane, a YZ work plane, an XZ work plane for working on a mill. I'm going to make a program for a CNC mill down the road. And for the majority of the time, you're going to choose the XY plane. Same plane you'll think about when you're doing math. X is left and right, Y up, in and out. Okay, so here's my 0, 0 for this. The wheel, roll the wheel in and out, zooms. Hold the wheel down, and I can pan around. Okay. And so I'm going to create something. So one of the things that's really helpful is to always start one corner of something here. So I'm going to go really basic. Let's go line. I'm going to start at the corner. Now, if you look at this, I have degrees and I have a distance. Okay. So if I'm going on an angle, I can type in this distance. Let's say I'm going to go 5 inches. Now if I hit tab, I can toggle to the other one, which is a degree. So when I toggle, I can toggle back and forth. So anytime I have that, I have some choices, I can toggle. I hit enter, it creates the line. There we go. And it applied 20 degrees, 5 inches. It made that angle. So if I'm going to make another line, I'm going to come down, I'll snap. Notice the little green thing. If there's no little green thing connecting, it is not touching. If it's not touching and it's not a fully closed entity, if it's not fully closed, it is not going to be able to be made into 3D. So notice here the little vertical thing that popped up below the 90 degrees here. That means it's a vertical line. Okay. If I go horizontally, it'll pop up as a horizontal line. So these are constraints that it applies to it. If I don't want it to be a horizontal line, definitely make sure I put it on a different angle. I can always dimension and angle things later. So I'm going to come straight down to this line, and I'm going to come over here and close this. So now I have a little triangle that's closed. Every time you're done, you need to finish the sketch. It will turn it into an isometric view. So look at my view cube. Here's my front. That's what I was looking at before. It made it an isometric view so I can see, and the reason is when I want to give it depth, I need to see. Regardless of what I'm making, I have this surface that I did. This triangle is the top of the part. I extrude back to make it grow. So let's make this 3D depth. So I'm going to come over here to the top, 3D model, and I want to extrude. Pops up a new window. This extrude, I can set my distance. Here's my distance. I have some choices. These choices here also work this way. So notice it's growing out towards the screen. If I change this, it goes away. I like my sketch to be on the top. This is also Z0. It makes things easier when I go to put a toolpath to it and I have to locate 0. I set my depth. I'm going to go with the default 1 inch. I say OK. It automatically recognized it because this was a closed triangle. There was no open, so it could handle it. So this is basically how I would give something some depth. If I wanted to put a hole in there, I make another sketch. Now notice what happened over here in the browser. It says extrusion. If I hover over it, that's that 3D model. If I expand that, look, there's my sketch. I need to edit it. Double click on the sketch, brings me back. I can edit the model. It's parametric, so it automatically changes it. When I finish my sketch, it automatically grows it bigger or shorter or whatever I need to do. If I want to make another, do something else, I can, like let's say I want to put a hole in here. I'm going to make a new sketch. And this is the surface I'm going to put the sketch on. I take that back. Let's say I'm not going to put it on that surface because that's kind of obvious, okay? That's logical. Let's say I'm going to put it on the end here. That's a surface I wasn't working on before. I can do that. Sketch, 2D, pick this surface. It rotates the part around and makes it flat to the screen. If I'm going to do a hole, one of the best things to do is I have two choices. I could make a circle and I could dimension it and put it in a certain spot. And then I could cut it with the extrude or cut. The problem is, if I'm going to do drafting or some of the other operations for toolpaths that I might do, it won't recognize it as anything but a circle. So if I use and make a point, place it on the surface, we don't know where that is, so you always have to put a dimension. So I said dimension, pick the point, pick the side I want to put the dimension to. There we go. Dimension it. Let's make it an even 0.5. It moves the point. Let's dimension it this way to here. Let's make it 1.5. Oh, let me show you this. Let me escape gets you out of the command. So escape. So I want to edit this. Let's say I want this to do the math because I have a couple of things added together. I can say 0.25 plus 0.75, and it will automatically do the math and move it. So now it's dimensioned where I want it. I'm going to finish my sketch. Notice here's this sketch. If I close this back up, I have a sketch. What happens is when you make a sketch and then you make an extrusion of it, it consumes the sketch. It puts it inside. So if I have a lone sketch out here, that means it's just a sketch. A lot of times students and other people will make sketches and sketches and sketches, and then they don't do anything with it. And if I have a sketch and then I make another sketch on this surface, it won't recognize both things because they're separate sketches. Okay, so let's take this. I want to make a hole. I want to show you how to do this. So here, hole. Pick hole. It brings up the hole command. So it's doing this hole perpendicular to the surface it's on, but it looks like it was going on an angle because of the angled surface. Okay, I can control its size, its diameter. I can control how far it goes, a distance, let's say. I can make it look different on the bottom of the hole. I can make it a tapped hole. Oh, look, right here, pick this. Let's make this a tapped hole. Let's make it a 1/4-20 tapped hole. Okay. What are we doing here? There we go. It's being slow. 1/4-20. So I pick my size, quarter, and then I choose my options for quarter, 20 threads per inch. And I say OK. And it has now made that a tapped hole. Looks like it has threads in it. Okay, so pick this here. So that's how I would make a hole. Now that retains all of that information as far as diameter, depth, the fact that it's a 1/4-20 tap. So when I do other things, it'll recognize it as more than just a circle to a depth. So I'm going to stop here with this version. This ought to get us going, and oh, I better save it just like I said. So I'm going to save it. In the next video, I'm going to build a part that's a more real part, a NIMS part, and show you how to go about and do that. But this should get you started. And again, notice it consumed the sketch. All right. See you next time.